Thanks for joining us for our Chamber Connection podcast. Thanks to our friends at Speakeasy, we are here for the next 52 weeks, bringing you guests from around our community, elected officials, business owners, folks doing great work here in Macomb County. So sit back, take a listen, and we hope you'll join us every week for our Chamber Connection. Hi, my name is Stacy Ziarko. I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce. And we're here today for our Chamber Connection podcast. And my guest today is Chris Bunch from the Rivers Land Conservancy. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Fabulous. Good morning, Stacy. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for being here this morning. I got a chance to attend one of your events a couple months ago. I'm fascinated by the work that you do. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what Six Rivers does in Southeast Michigan?
Sure. So Six Rivers Land Conservancy works to preserve land, to keep it in its natural state, or its agricultural state, to work with our partners and public agencies to acquire more parks and preserves, and to work with private landowners who want to ensure their property is not developed. It might be a second, third generation landowner. I've been on this farm since I was a kid. I would be horrified to see it turn into a subdivision or an industrial site. So we want to protect it.
Using Macomb County as a great example, I learned this during Leadership Macomb, and it was astounding to me that there are over 400 farms in Macomb County. And Macomb County is not alone in that. And so I think people think that farms have to be far away or big, but I think Macomb will show you that they don't have to be. Is that kind of what you see too?
Well, yeah, certainly that's reasonably accurate. The farms, especially north of, say, 32 Mile, right? I mean, the principal agricultural community in Macomb County is now in the northern 6 townships, and really the northern 3. But yeah, producing agriculture close to urban centers is really, really important, because it means that you've got fresher food available, you reduce carbon footprint. But the challenge, the flip side of that is the big challenge is that those farms are magnets for development, because they don't have all those pesky trees, right? So it's a real challenge to try and preserve that as we continue to expand our developed footprint.
I am known for heading up to some of those family farms on my chase for the Honeycrisp apple every fall. So I definitely see them, and you also see some of those families selling their properties off. But that's where you guys kind of come in to prevent that and to help keep this as green space. Talk about some of the big projects that you've accomplished over the last couple of years.
Sure. So we hold a number of conservation easements that are donated to us. A lot of those are hybrid, so they're part natural area and part farm. We also have some nature preserves, and then we've done a lot of assist projects where we help a public agency buy a property to become a park. We come in and we buy it and hold it while they apply for funding to cash us out. So there are a number of examples. One of the ones that you and I were talking about earlier is Anchor Bay Woods Preserve, which is up in New Baltimore. Another one in Chesterfield Township. We bought a piece on the Salt River, which is now their, I think they call it their Salt River Nature Center. So we bought that and held it. They got a grant from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. And once the money came through, then they purchased it from us, and it's now a natural area, a nature park on the Salt River, right up, probably 20 minutes upstream from their Weber paddle park.
And I was telling you earlier, I use that as a project for my grad school class, because it was talking about public and private and nonprofit partnerships and how we can all work together to really better our community. And you guys, these assist programs are relatively newish for you, correct? It's something that is taking off more and more.
Yeah, I mean, we did a few of them as one-offs over a period of several years, but then we started to focus a lot more on doing that. And part of that is because one of the things we did to do that was went out and got a line of credit with First State Bank.
Good friends of ours at the chamber too.
Yep, yeah, and this was new. This was new for them, new for us. We also work with the Conservation Fund, which is a national organization that was formed just to lend money for these types of transactions. And that, initially was simpler because they understand these types of transactions. They're more comfortable with the risk profile. But I happened to be at a chamber event with the president of First State Bank and was having a little talk about what we do, and said, yeah, one of these days maybe we'd like to borrow some money from you. And he said, well, let's talk. And the result of that was this line of credit, which we've now used. Well, we're in the middle of another one right now. Well, actually, I think we just paid it off. A marina we bought up in Marine City.
Oh, okay.
Which is a little different than our normal.
I was going to ask. Tell me a little bit about that project.
Well, it's a little different than our natural area conservation work, but we felt it was really important because it's placemaking for the city of Marine City. It's public access, right? It's providing public access to the Bell River, about a quarter mile upstream from the St. Clair River. Provided a really important marina. And so, we stepped in, borrowed the money from First State, bought the property from the private landowners, held it. The city got a grant from the trust fund. They just cashed us out, and this marina will open as a public marina in the spring. And it's their first.
That's awesome.
It's the first footprint in their marina district. If you look at their planning documents, they're going to do a marina district all the way into town. So this was the first footprint.
That is real. And it's, again, you said it's different, but it still fits in your mission of, creating this space for people.
Yeah, it's different than our Anchor Bay Woods Preserve, which is natural area preservation with a critical habitat. It's much different, right? This Marine City Marina is, I think the whole thing is maybe an acre. Whereas the object with Anchor Bay Woods, if we get there, is to protect the entire complex, which is over 300. And right now we own about a little over 50 acres, and then some is protected by the city, and some is protected by an easement held by Eagle. So, slowly but surely we're piecing that together.
One of the things I think we learned during the pandemic, when we were kind of all trying to figure out, we were at home looking for things to do, we saw that our parks and our natural spaces had a huge uptick in popularity that I think has only increased since the pandemic. People have sought this lifestyle of being outdoors as a something that they need in their life. And you guys are helping them fill that. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you're right on the money. It exploded. And I don't, I'm sure.
The numbers were insane.
Yeah, I'm sure many people experienced this, but I was on a motorcycle ride. I live in Rochester Hills. I took off. I was headed east. I was on 26 Mile by the Metro Park, and it was insane. I think I was on 25 Mile and was going to cut through, and it was impossible. They had to shut it down, and they were turning people away because they were blown up over capacity, and that happened all over the state and all over the country.
I lived close to Dodge Park. We would meet neighbors because it was the only time you saw neighbors. We would walk the park. And again, it was one of those things. It was a relatively newish park for Sterling Heights at the time, and it just exploded. And now people are coming from all over because of these great resources that communities are investing in. And that's where you guys are kind of being that helping hand and helping them guide some of this, preservation to only benefit our community.
Yes. Yes, and yes, but. So, one of the challenges is this. There's 8 million acres of public land in Michigan. Yep. Only 200,000 of it is down here where all the people live and work, right? 2/3 of the state's population is down here. There's a multi-generational thought process here, and I'm a part of it, that nature is up north, right? That we get in our car and we drive up north. This is where we build things. So we have not done a good job of providing access, providing those recreational opportunities. And, one of the things that I talk about is I sat on the state Blue Ribbon Advisory Group for state game areas for the DNR. And one of the things we talked about was the need to add more state game areas. And one of the places where where I've really got a bee in my bonnet is St. Clair County.
Sure.
And the argument that I continue to make is, look, that big thing called I-94 that comes up from Detroit, right? So in an hour's drive, people can be hiding in the woods, hunting, fishing, doing whatever they want instead of a 3-hour drive, right? So wouldn't you like to capture maybe just even 10% of the people that are going up north every weekend and retain those dollars down here, reduce the carbon footprint, all of that stuff.
Accessibility, too.
It's critical.
It's somewhat of a, we're all creatures of our own convenience, too. And if it's an hour way to do something versus 3 hours, are you more likely to do it more often than 2?
And that, that's a big challenge in this region, right? Is accessibility, what it takes to get there. So I would love to go hang out over in Waterloo State Recreation Area,
Sure.
which is over by Ann Arbor. It takes me 2 hours to get there. If I'm taking the motorcycle to go ride, those roads are fabulous over there. If I'm going to ride with friends over there, it's an hour and a half death ride with people trying to kill me and all the traffic here before I get over there. Yeah. And so we need to think about providing some of those kinds of opportunities here, close to home.
Talk about, the conservation and what you do is also an economic driver. I think that it's something that people don't talk about a lot.
Well, and I wish I could quote these statistics, and I'll send them to you. Maybe we can feed them in here. I'm the chair of our state association, which Heart of the Lakes, which represents all of the land conservancies. We're doing a lot of work with the Outdoor Industry Association. So there is now a Michigan Office of Outdoor Industry, which is housed with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And the OIA just came out with their economic impact report, and it's billions of dollars nationally, and a few billion just in Michigan, right?
Sure.
Hunting, fishing, skiing, hiking, biking is a huge impact, and we don't think about that.
You think about people that come to use a park or use that marina. They're going to eat somewhere. They're going to fill up with gas. They're going to wander, through a downtown and spend money where they're at. And if that wasn't there, then where do they go to spend their money?
So you just made the case for the Marine City Marina, right? I mean, that's what they're talking about, is that I lived in northern Michigan for 17 years. I lived up in Northport, which is a resort community, right?
Oh, yes.
So it's got a marina. But one of the big things we pushed for with our Anchor Bay Woods was that at one point we tried to get Schmid Marina purchased to become part of an Anchor Bay State Park, with the campground at Anchor Bay Woods and the marina here, which is what you see all over the state, right? So I lived in Northport, same thing. The marina was here, campground was up here. People come and camp and then hang out downtown, right? All the stores, all the restaurants. We have all of that opportunity, and we just don't capitalize on it.
What do we need to do? How do we, as business communities, conservationists, how do we work together to then drive that economic impact locally?
Well, I think we really need to think about two things. One is the economic impact, the economic component of it, but the other is the quality of life, right? Which is much harder to measure, but translates into the things that you talked about with Dodge Park, right? When people move into a community, they think about the school system, the recreational opportunities, right? And I would argue that they think about those before they think about shopping.
Sure.
Right?
We can do it.
We can shop.
You can shop a whole different way now.
You can shop a whole different way. Even if you're shopping locally, there are lots of those opportunities, right? And hopefully you are shopping locally.
Please do.
That's an important component of it.
Correct.
But people are thinking, what about the schools that my kids are going to? What about the opportunity to get out and go play, to take them sledding, to get them doing things outside? Good Lord, please put that thing down and go outside, right? So we need to think about that quality of life component as an important aspect of the larger, less measured piece of economic impacts in a community. And so I think if we work together on that front, and it's one of my pet peeves down here, right?
Sure.
We've hosted tours for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Board. We've done 6 of them now in this region. So from Port Huron all the way down to South Lyon. The trust fund is a $650 million fund, started 40 years ago. Revenue from oil and gas on state land go into the trust fund. It's managed by the DNR. It acquires land for conservation and recreation in the state of Michigan. It's spent over $1 billion. Right. So we've hosted tours for them multiple times. So one of the last ones, we're on the highway, on the bus, heading to another one. And what do we see? A great big Pure Michigan sign advertising Betsy County, right? And then another Pure Michigan sign advertising Pictured Rocks. Yep. Well, why aren't we collectively down here thinking about all the fabulous assets we've got? Just in Macomb County, let's talk about the metro parks. Yep. And Dodge Park, this fabulous...
The lake access.
Yeah, all the lake access. I mean, Lake St. Clair, right? 40% of the master angler fish in the state of Michigan caught there. So
that was something I learned coming to the chamber. We did a bass tournament, and we had anglers from all over the world coming in to fish at Lake St. Clair and talking about how it was one of the best waters for fishing that they fish in all year long in these tournaments.
And you know what the biggest heartburn is? No place to stay.
Correct.
No place to camp, right? So had we been successful in getting the Anchor Bay State Park thing, we would have provided a huge access point for all of those fisher people coming in to fish those contests.
And I think it's Lake St. Clair and along that lakeshore has always been very residential. There isn't a hotel on the lake. As you go to St. Joe's and there's a lake, there's a hotel right overlooking the lake there. How do we, look at that from an economic driver? I mean, there is a need for it. There is a need that people want to come. They want to go to the lake. They want to stay at the lake.
So, the county, Macomb County does a fabulous job of promoting the greenways and the blueways and that's great work. We need to, but the contrast is thinking about manufacturing jobs and we're not thinking about balancing that demand and reusing existing spaces with building in green spaces. And so we need to think more about incentivizing and driving redevelopment into the existing infrastructure. As a taxpayer, it makes me crazy to see another field with a new sewer and water connection. One of the things we say in our business is the cows don't call 911, right? The trees aren't going to school. So you don't have the long-term infrastructure costs, the cost of community services for undeveloped land. So if we invested more in thinking about that, then I think we would have more success.
What are going to be some of your big projects over the next couple years to help kind of drive your mission?
Well, we've got several we're working on in various stages of able to talk about. There's, we're working on one in Chesterfield Township with the Air Force and Chesterfield Township, and it's actually a former dump and septic lagoon property of theirs, but the Air Force, it's off the north end of the runway. Yep. So Selfridge wants to make sure that doesn't get turned into a development that conflicts with Selfridge's operations. And we'd like to see there be some restoration there of natural habitat. And so the township owns the property. We got a grant from Department of Defense. We're hoping to work out a deal where the property is protected and we do some restoration there. That would add another 60 or 70 acres of accessible natural area. There's a couple other projects we want to do in Chesterfield that are along the Salt River, and we hold a conservation easement way up in Lenox Township. We did this project with Chesterfield Township. Yeah, we'd let and Jerry Santoro and Macomb Planning, has looked at that resource from top to bottom and looked at what we need to do to do preservation along there to preserve the water quality. Sure. Because just like our Anchor Bay Woods Preserve, that's another big one. All of these assets have significant impact on water quality. Right? So if they're natural, it prevents pollution.
Okay.
And if they're turned into rooftops and lawns and parking lots, then we have a lot more
creating the pollution.
Yeah, water challenges. So Anchor Bay Woods is another one we keep working on. We're chipping away at that. We've been buying the smaller pieces with frontage because those are quicker targets for development. There are two major pieces that we would like to buy in there, but there's a little difference of opinion on their value. And so to some greater or lesser degree, we have to bide our time. Everything we do, and we're a private institution, all driven by property rights, right? So it's all about willing seller. We don't have eminent domain, and we wouldn't use it. What we're interested in is cultivating people's attitude about the importance of preserving our natural resources and our natural assets because they're so critical to us, right? I mean, Lake St. Clair is not just a fishery. What else do you get there? Oh, yeah, drinking water, right? So Candace Miller is doing a fabulous job trying to disconnect the combined sewer overflows, trying to improve water quality that way. And we're doing our part. An ounce of prevention is worth $100 million of restoration, right? So if we can get in front of the pollution, then we avoid the cost altogether.
And I think that's something that people don't think about. We react. We're a reactionary society, right? So you're doing things to help us be more proactive to prevent that reaction down the road. And that's a big project, and sometimes probably a hard sell.
Oh yeah. Well, sure. We run, the biggest challenge we face are the voices saying, we need economic development. We need more factory or houses, right? People want to see residential in there. And what that gets you is a shot in the arm for a year or 2 or 3 while you build it. You get increased property taxes for some period of time because you've got people living there. But the economic science, and this has been settled literally for decades, cost of community services studies tell you that you get about 5 years of revenue positive out of a new development. And then after that, it goes revenue negative because school buses, police, fire, road and water line and sewer line maintenance and repair. And so there's got to be a balancing act in there.
How can people get involved in the work that you're doing?
Well, certainly they can go to our website, right? sixriversrlc.org. And, we'd love to have people be members. We lead lots of community engagement hikes. So Anchor Bay Woods Preserve, I know, will be doing a wildflower hike there in the spring. And we've got some really cool stuff there. We've got some of the, I think they're called... Sorry, we don't have our stewardship guy here. I'm not the science guy, but I think we've got the red trillium, right? We've got a pretty rare orchid in there. There is a plant, we have yet to find it, but there was a plant identified in there by the Michigan Natural Features Inventory that was declared extinct in Michigan back in 1900.
And it's in this preserve.
It's in this preserve. So
cool.
There are some really cool natural features there. And
in all of our own backyard.
Yeah.
You're not driving 3 hours to see this.
No. It's an hour from Detroit if traffic's lousy, right?
Right.
It's about half an hour from my house in Rochester Hills to get there.
How about being creative about what's in your own neighborhood to help you then preserve it too?
Exactly. Yep.
Chris, thank you for being here this morning. This was really cool. I learned a lot. I hope that you didn't mind my probing questions.
No, not at all.
But I hope that, our listeners today learn a little bit about the work that you do, but also, do a deep dive into maybe it's economic projects that they're doing and how they might be able to work with you or even consult with you on if it's the right project to do anymore as we kind of, change our landscape.
Yeah, we would love that. We have a lot of those conversations with people. We looked at a project down here in Sterling Heights, and most of our projects take time to develop, right? Because people have to think about it. But there is an industrial park down here that we've had conversation with that has an important tributary to the Clinton River running through it. And so there's about 10 or 12 acres of that may eventually be permanently protected as part of that project.
But thank you for the work that you do. You guys are one of the most hardworking teams I've ever seen and creative at the same time. So thank you for helping us educate ourselves on conservation and how we can all join you in this effort.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and thanks for all you guys do to help elevate the visibility and the importance of the work we're doing and the message we have. It's great to do events with you guys.
It's fun. You guys get to do the fun stuff. We just get to help promote your outdoor activities. It gives us a reason to get out of the office and into the fresh air sometimes. So,
well, next time we'll go for a hike and do this.
Deal. Thank you all so much, and tune in next time for our next edition of The Chamber Connection.
Thanks for tuning in to The Chamber Connection. Be sure to check out information on the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce website, our Facebook page, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We look forward to you connecting with us and tuning in next week.